Okay, let's take a little look at this officer cam footage from the LetJulieSwim press conference. Okay, so remember this one when Officer Kamal Sharif says, yeah, we're not doing any good in there. They can report those crimes later.
Can do it afterwards. Us being in the middle of that is not doing anybody any good.
Yeah, see, us being in the middle of that's not doing any good. Those assaults going on in there and those women's rights being violated, yeah, we don't want to be in there. They can report crimes later. We're not here to prevent crimes. Right? Why were they there? More on that another day. Right now, we're going to head on over and see what these other officers have to say.
Jason wants me and Chase to go inside, so will you guys just kind of hang out over here and not get involved in that? Yeah. Just stuff where you got that for you guys. That's what I'm keeping my eye on. That's felony assault.
So yeah, we're going to go over here and we're going to protect the trans rights activists that are important here at City Council. And don't get involved in that, okay? That's what Officer John Stewart says. And then Officer Mark Titterness, which is his body cam, says, there's some felony assaults going on over there. Okay, so let's listen again. Officer Titterness says that big guy over there, like he's assaulting somebody, you know, so that's why I'm keeping my eye out.
Stuff where you got that for you guys. That's why I'm keeping my eye on. That's felony assault.
Okay, so Officer Mark Titterness tells Officer John Stewart and Officer Kamal Sharif and the other officer standing there that there's an assault in progress. And we know that a few moments later he tells someone that was with our press conference that it's peaceful and there's nothing he can do and a whole different story. But that's not what this video is about. All right, so a couple minutes later, Officer John Stewart says, we're going to go over here, you know, over here to City Hall where the important people are. And don't get involved in that. He says it again.
You guys stay out of that. We're gonna go over here. You guys stay out of that.
10 minutes later, the same Officer John Stewart says, there's assaults and we don't really know what's going on. And he's explaining everything. And then Officer Sharif's explaining everything. Why? Why? Because the state police are there. So people called 911. The state police showed up. So Port Townsend police, you know, they're doing a good job. So they're explaining to the police, there's a guy over there. Yeah, he's drunk. I spoke to him. There's some assaults going on. So here's what we're going to do. And 10 minutes later, all of a sudden they had a change of heart. No, they hated us. They deliberately let us be assaulted. They said we could call in the crimes later after they happened. They knew Antifa and other groups were coming to the event to shut down our speech days in advance. They didn't put up any separation of the groups purposely. They gave a police escort in the back door to the trans rights activists and let 400 people mob us. There was 11 of us speakers and about 20 people that were there watching us. We were very diverse politically, spiritually, you know. And some of us were in their fancy club, you know, the gays and lesbians. Anyway, so the one I'm going to show you here is Officer John Stewart saying, oh, there's some assaults and we're going to go around the outside because here's what we know. Like, you know, now they know stuff. It was 10 minutes later. They were deliberately nonchalant, deliberately like, don't get involved in that, and we're not going to go over there, and we're not going to do any good in there. And then when the state police shows up, they're like, oh yeah, we're the good guys, we're official. I talked to that guy, he's drunk. I talked to the other big guy, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and here's what we're going to do, right? Yeah.
We don't know all we're going to do.
So we know there's assaults.
We don't know all we're going to do.
So all we know is there's some assaults in there. Right. This was 10 minutes later. That same officer that was going to just let us burn, right? Just let that mob at us because he hated us so much. And he lives here in Port Townsend. I think Officer John Stewart went to high school here. I think he's gay. Also, I've seen him at some different events, I think. I'm not fully sure, but they clearly prejudiced us. They clearly made the decision, knowing there was assaults, to not get involved in that. And now that the state police are there, the folks in the blue uniforms, now they act all official and like they actually care about people and what's going on. And now you can see Chief Olson come out of the building. That's what I was pointing at. That's Chief Tom Olson. He was at the meeting protecting city council. He helped the trans rights activists come in the back door while we were blocked out of city council. We were denied due process in a town we live in to speak because the trans rights activists blocked us out. So because 911 was called and the state police come in, then his job and his reputation's at stake. So Chief Tom Olson comes out and is like, okay, now what's going on now? Are they this now? Are they that? They act all official, right? Like they care. They could have easily separated the groups. Plus, you can see from this video footage how nonchalant they were before the state police showed up. So don't let anybody tell you that the Port Townsend Police Department did everything they could. They deliberately discriminated against Amy and Julie, bullied them, intimidated them, and any of us who went to speak at that event. They let us be bullied, intimidated. They knew in advance that groups were coming to shut down our speech. They knew Antifa would be there, and they knew other groups would be there. They knew that Libby Wennstrom had a crew. Have guns and that would have armor with concealed carry. And there were several groups that were coordinating assaults on us. They knew in advance. They didn't try to separate the groups, and when they were there and they knew assaults were in progress, they didn't do anything to help us. But when the state police got involved, then they're like, oh, well, this kind of looks bad on us, so I think we probably better get in there. And that's when they went in and pretended to try to arrest Alex French, who had been assaulting that man for quite a while and ripped off items off of Jen's body, ripped off her shoe and threw it. The trans rights activist hit her. She was pinned to the bricks. Women were knocked down. Alex French had kicked another man in the groin. And the Port Townsend police knew this stuff was happening and let it happen to us, like the old-fashioned witch burnings. And when the state police come in, then the Port Townsend police acted like they were official and that they had a grip on everything. And we know what happened with the Alex French arrest, right? Ryan Harris interfered. Now, Ryan Harris was also assaulting, pushing into us, bullying us, intimidating us, yelling at us, and not letting us speak at a permanent event in Port Townsend. And he assaulted Officer Sharif. All the officers say it on camera, yet prosecutor James Kennedy didn't prosecute him. So Ryan Harris got arrested for that. Alex French, who assaulted Jen Thomas, ran away, and they just let him run away. And they're talking here also in this group about him being drunk, and, they just let him do whatever he wanted. He got arrested a couple weeks later at the September 3rd event because I told the police he was there. He didn't get any charges because the mayor's law firm represented him. So this clip shows you pretty clear that the Port Townsend police deliberately let us be assaulted. Maliciously, willingly, knowingly. It wasn't like they didn't know. Discrimination, that okay at your Port Townsend event? Many of those of us assaulted have injuries for the rest of our lives. Many women didn't come out of their homes for months. I myself was traumatized for weeks. When I went to the store, I had my live feed on. People threatened to kill me. People threatened that I did not have a voice in the town square. They would come at me with trucks. They threatened all kinds of stuff on my site. And people like Dawn Christensen that were in the mob that threatened to do worse later. Councilman Libby Wennstrom, Councilwoman, I'm so confused. Councilman Ben Thomas stood with them. Prosecutor stood with the mob. They all stood with the mob, and none of them stood with us. We live here. Amy Sousa lives here. Jaman lives here. I live here. 2 speakers were flown in. The rest of that group live here. Some of the gals that came in were about an hour away, and that was only about 10 of them. The city of Port Townsend chose sides and endangered women deliberately because they didn't like their belief. Would that be okay at your Port Townsend event?